Hey guys, Brian here from 5 to Go. Wanted to hop on here and just do a quick follow-up video for our last episode where we went up to Denver and we checked out some rental units for sale by Cruise America. We had a lot of comments and questions and feedback. We had emails, comments on YouTube, comments on our website, all over the place. So we know you guys are really interested in this topic, and I wanted to take you guys to the next step where we're going through our thinking process of, is a rental RV worth it? Or would it be better to stick with the private market and the dealership market and get a used RV with lower miles? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little pros and cons of both of those options. But before we get to that, I'm going to answer some of the frequently asked questions that we got in that last video. I just want to make sure everybody can get the answers instead of trying to scroll through all the comments. So first up, we are not affiliated with or working with Cruise America in any way. They had no idea we were going there to film the video. The only person who works for Cruise America that we've ever talked to is the sales manager at that location, and he just gave us a walkthrough of the rig and then we shot our episode. We have not talked to them on corporate. We know they saw the last video because they sent us a tweet about it, but that's it. So we're not working with them, we're not getting paid by them. I know that last episode may come off kind of as an advertisement, but to be totally honest, it's because we've been looking at a lot of used RVs and we've been kind of discouraged by what we've found. So when we went up there, we were expecting these rental units to be all beat to crap and not worth anything, but that is the complete opposite of what we found. So we were just really excited, and that kind of comes across as sales pitch. So sorry about that, but we're not working with them. Next up, we got a lot of questions about where to find these units for sale. The super easy thing to do is to go to cruiseamerica.com and go to the sales tab, and that'll show you all of their units all across the country. I think they have 12 or 13 sales locations around the country. They list them all out by mileage and price and all that. So go over there and check that out if you're interested in looking at these rigs. Next up is kind of a personal one, RV ovens. We don't like RV ovens, the tiny little propane ones that you see in travel trailers, fifth wheels, and motorhomes all over the place. We had one in our 37-foot travel trailer that we full-timed in for almost 2 years, and we used it one time, I think. They're super small, you can't really fit much into them. The heating is super inconsistent, like they have super bad hot spots and all of that. We had a convection microwave oven in that RV, and we could fit a half sheet pan in there. We did everything from cookies and biscuits all the way to casseroles and flatbreads and small pizzas and stuff. It was amazing. So in the future, any RV that we end up with that does not have a convection microwave oven, we will be putting one in, replacing the existing microwave. And if there is an oven in there, we're either just going to use it for storage like we did in the last rig, or we're going to take it out and make it into a better storage cabinet that makes a better use of that space. We're looking at about 30 feet for a Class C, and that's for a couple reasons. We are currently renting a house in Colorado Springs. This is kind of our new home base for the next year or two. And we want to do some exploring on long weekends or on weeks that the kids don't have school or like over Christmas break, stuff like that. And then next summer for sure, we want to be out as much of next summer as we possibly can. But we want a 30-foot-ish or lower Class C because we want it to, first of all, fit in the driveway, which we have a nice wide driveway an RV can fit in. But a 30-foot will also allow us to get in some of the national parks out here. There's a lot of them out in Utah that we haven't been to yet. We definitely want to get back up to Yellowstone. There is one campground where you can be over 30 feet, but everything else is under 30 feet. And we would love to be able to stay in the park. Because last time we were there, we had to stay about half an hour, 45 minutes outside the park. And then you add time at the gate and time to get to where you're going. That added about, an hour, hour and a half each day to get in there and do what we wanted to do. So if we have a shorter amount of time, just like little mini vacations from here, we want to be able to maximize our time in the parks like that. So we think a rig at 30 feet or under will get us into all of those places. And since we're not full-timing in this one, we are not as worried about having as much space for all of our stuff. And we'll all have a place to sleep, but it won't be, a bunkhouse and all of that. Speaking of bunkhouses, if you've ever looked at Class C's and Class A's, they have kind of horizontal bunkhouses that run like down the hallway or kind of in the midsection of the rig. Those add a lot of length to the RV. So we have not seen a bunkhouse model that is under 30 feet that has them in the hallway like that. We think with our 3 young kids, the cab over and then the converted sofa and or dinette would be plenty of sleeping space for them, and then we'd have the queen in the back. So with all of that being said, the number one question we got in that last video was, what's the mileage and what's the price on these rigs? We did talk about both, but it was kind of towards the end of the video, so we know a lot of people don't stick around all the way to the end. So all of these Cruise America RVs that we've seen are 2015 Thor Majestic 28As, that's their 30-foot model we're looking at, and they all have over 90,000 miles before they take them out of the rental fleet. Most of the ones have over 100,000 miles before they actually get through the refurbishment process and get listed online. They also start around 26 to 28,000, kind of depends on where you are in the country. So again, go to their website, check out their listings and see what they have available. We have noticed that there are a couple of their rigs with a lot more miles, like 130, 140,000 miles. Saw a couple of those down in Arizona, and that actually knocks a couple more thousand off of the price. So if you're willing to have a much higher mileage rig, you can get an even better price on it. And since we're already talking about Cruise America, let's do some pros of going that route. Number one, obviously, is price. We have looked around at used RVs all over the place. The only ones we can really get under $30,000 are either much older or in, frankly, pretty bad shape. The really nice thing about the rental being around $30,000, after taxes and fees and all that, is it's a 2015. It's a pretty much new-ish used rig. There are issues with financing with RVs that are older than 7 or 10 years, which you might run into if you've ever shopped for one. And it's also nice to have a newer one because the parts are newer. Some of the items that the manufacturers use have been made much better. There was kind of a boom in the RV industry around 2012, 2011, and a lot of RVs started being made really, really fast, so some more component manufacturers started stepping up their game. So the newer rigs are a bit nicer, but one downside to that is some of the newer manufacturers have been making so many RVs so quickly that the quality has kind of gone down in the manufacturing and the materials used. So that's another reason we really like the Cruise America rigs, is because they custom order all of their RVs to be exactly the same because they are fleet maintained. And some of the upgrades that they do, like you saw in that last video, are beefy. We like the upgraded flooring, we like the upgraded fabrics, we really like the fact that it has a porcelain toilet instead of one of those shaky little plastic ones. So there's a lot of things that they do to those rigs that we really like, and like the oven being gone is something that I would be doing to an RV anyway, so they've already done it and it's included in the price. I like that. Speaking of fleet maintenance, all of the RVs that Cruise America runs are based on the E450 Ford chassis, and they all have the V10 engine, which, if you know anything about engines, that V10 is a workhorse. We routinely see people talking about getting 200, 300,000 miles on these things, so even a rig that's around 100,000 miles still has a lot of life left in it. Plus, with all that fleet maintenance, there is paperwork with those rigs. If you buy one of these rigs, it comes with all of the paperwork showing you its service history, its travel history, like it shows you everything about that rig. If you're buying one private party, you don't know if whoever owned it even changed the oil or rotated the tires or did any regular maintenance, let alone any major things that needed to be fixed. There are just a lot of question marks. When you're working with a company that maintains things fleet style, you're going to get all of the information because they keep records on everything. And finally, talking about pros for Cruise America, we've received probably more than 20 comments on the last video. We've received emails, we've received messages on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, all over the place. Every single person that has sent us a message that says, hey, I bought one of these, here's my experience, they've all been positive. Like, there wasn't a single negative comment from anyone that has bought one of these rigs. We've had a lot of comments from people that have rented from Cruise America, and those kind of run a little bit more of the gamut. We have some people that were like, oh, it was junk, it broke down, whatever. And then we had other people that were like, it was awesome, we had it for 3 weeks or a month, we had a great trip, RVing's awesome. But the important thing here is when they pull them to go on sale, they do a complete refurbishment. So just because a rental unit is out there and maybe has some wear and tear that's gonna bite you when you're out there on the road, it's probably going to be addressed in that refurbishment process. So by the time it gets to the sales lot or the inventory online, it probably has had all of those things figured out and fixed, and then it's ready to go. Oh, and I forgot one last thing, probably the most important thing. It comes with a warranty. Included in the price, there's a 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. It covers the powertrain, so it's the engine, transmission, and axles. So it doesn't cover a lot, and it doesn't cover it for a long time, but you can extend that one. The prices are all listed on the website, and those things go on sale all the time. You can extend it to 5 years and 100,000 miles. Now, the important thing here is it's not 100,000 miles on the odometer, because they already have that. It's 100,000 more miles. That's 100,000 more miles, 5 more years of driving that V10, of using that transmission, putting those axles through whatever off-roading or anything you're going to be doing in that rig. So that is a really, really, really good deal. They also offer an extended RV warranty, which covers everything inside the RV, all of the RV systems. So it covers the refrigerator, the air conditioner, the toilet, the hot water heater, everything that's inside. And the great thing about that extra RV warranty and the extended powertrain warranty is if you're financing your rig, you can roll all of those up into one price and get those inside your financing. If you go private party, your only option for a warranty is either hopefully the one that's on the RV currently will transfer if it's not too old, or you can go third party and buy an RV warranty from another company like Good Sam, or there's a few others out there. The problem we've noticed with some of those third party warranties is that they have pretty strict limits on the age of the rig, the number of miles, and I don't want to fill out all this information so they can send me emails every 5 minutes, but I'm pretty sure those are going to be a little bit more expensive than the ones that you could get from Cruise America as a company, because they're dealing in volume there. So it's not all rainbows and puppy dogs. There are definitely some cons with buying a rig from Cruise America, and really the biggest one, the most important one, is it was a rental. You don't know how it was driven. You don't know how people treated it. You know that things are going to be fixed and you're going to get all the paperwork for the maintenance and all that, but you don't know if someone ragged it up a mountain, if they took it off-roading, bouncing all over the place, and some components are loose and just haven't broken quite yet. You know, that's where these warranties come in, and those can help out a lot to kind of smooth over those unknowns. But to be totally honest, the comments that I mentioned earlier that we've received from owners, they've said if anything small broke, the warranty was super easy to use, and they had no issues getting anything done or anything repaired. There was no back and forth with the company. It was all very smooth process. So, yeah, it was a rental. Yeah, you don't know how it was driven. And I don't know, some of that might actually be a myth too. You know, we did get some comments from people that worked for Cruise America saying a lot of the people, you know, because you put a deposit down on these things when you rent them, if you go out and you beat the crap out of them, they have your credit card number and they're going to charge you for any of these really nasty repairs. So when we rent things, when we rent cars or when we've rented things in the past, we treat them nicely. We treat things nicely all the time, and we don't want to give things back that are broken, not only because you're going to be penalized for it, but because you're just being decent, right? Not everybody that rents something is going to beat the crap out of it. So there's kind of a myth out there that because it's a rental, it is destroyed, it's no good to anyone after it's out of the fleet. I just don't buy that, but that is kind of that sentiment out there. And speaking of some Cruise America employees that we've talked to, there were a couple that have worked kind of all over the country. And like any big company, there is going to be a variation in the quality of the work done in different locations. So some of the people that reached out to us were mechanics at one point. They said some shops in some areas are good, some aren't so good. So just because the maintenance is being done doesn't necessarily mean it's being done correctly or in a timely manner or anything like that. But when you're talking private party, it's kind of the same thing. So at least you have paperwork coming from Cruise America, where with a private purchase, you may not have paperwork. And finally, there's a couple cons that might be specific to you when you're shopping for your RV. You may not like the floor plan they have available, and they have one floor plan available if you want that 30-foot model. There's also a couple modifications that they do that you might not like. You might want the RV oven, or you might want carpet, or you might want the roller shades, and there's other things that they change that you might not be happy with. It just so happens that these things kind of all line up with what we've been looking for and what we've been thinking about modifying if we buy a used Class C. So that just worked out well for us, but it might not be a great fit for you. So now let's talk about used RVs that are not from a rental company. I'm talking about ones from, Bob down the street, or ones you find online on RV Trader, or ones that you might find at a dealership that deals with used RVs. The first pro for those, obviously, is going to be the mileage is going to be a lot lower. They probably only had 1 or 2 or 3 owners, and when you own something, you might take a little bit more pride in it than when you rent something. Another thing you're going to get from the kind of private market is you're going to have way more variety when it comes to floor plans, engines, manufacturers, chassis, options, all of that stuff. You're going to find rigs with slides. You're going to find rigs with, bunk beds that go up and down. You're going to have a lot more things to kind of do some shopping with, but that comes at a price, literally. When we've been looking for used Class Cs, the biggest barrier has been price. Because we're looking for this rig for part-time use and not full-time, our budget is much lower, because we have rent payment, we have utilities, we have all this stuff we didn't have when we were full-timing, so we have less money to spend on RVing, so our budget is lower. Every single 2015 or newer that we've seen that's kind of in a comparable size has definitely had fewer miles, but they really start at double the price, and that is significant. And even when we expand our search out of like Colorado and make a nationwide search on RV Trader, the closest we can get to the prices for these Cruise America rigs is used RVs with more than 50,000 miles, so you're kind of getting close to that Cruise America territory, but they're still $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 more. And they don't come with a warranty, and they don't come with the modifications, and there's just such a big difference in the price between privately owned and the rental fleet ones that it really makes the rental ones very, very attractive. And speaking about the warranty again, you can probably get a used RV warranty if you go to a dealership that's selling used RVs, but it's probably going to be pretty short. And if you want to extend it, you're going to have to go third party, and you're going to butt up against the, the mileage limits, the age limits, and stuff like that again. Whereas if you're buying it from Cruise America, everything is very upfront. It's all available on the website, and you can see all of it that you come with. And there's no, like, does this dealer have extended warranties? Does this one not? There's no private party warranty. So the warranty thing is kind of figured out. So I'm going to throw that in the con category for a private used RV. Another thing that we've run into in looking at used RVs is just because someone owns an RV doesn't mean they necessarily know how to take care of it or even to use basic RV systems. You don't know how people have used the tanks. You don't know if any maintenance has been done. You don't know if they got up on the roof and fiddled with things and there's a water leak hiding that you can't find. So there's a lot more that you really, really, really need to dig into and inspect and kind of keep in mind when you're looking at used RVs, because there's literally no way to know what that thing has been through unless you just happen to have like a single owner rig with low miles and you can really chat them up and get a good history on it. But that's definitely the exception rather than the rule, because most of the used RVs we've seen have been at dealerships, and when they get those things in on trade, they have no idea what the history of the thing is. They just know the mileage and they slap a price on it. And finally, when talking about mileage, a low mileage RV isn't necessarily in better condition than a higher mileage one. One of the things we've seen is if you have like a 2015 rig, if we keep it in that same comparable area, if it only has 5,000 or 6,000 miles on it, that might have all been driven right up front of the life of this RV, and then it's been sitting for the last 4 years. When RVs sit, things dry out, like tires and seals and internal components, and then things can be damaged when you start using it heavily again that you wouldn't even have noticed, that everything would have looked okay. That's one of the reasons we look at the dates on tires as well as the tread, because RV tires kind of have a lifespan even if they haven't been used very much. There are also other things that can wear down, like if you're in a really sunny place like here in Colorado, the roofs can kind of sit out there and bake and just fall apart. Window seals can dry rot. There's a lot of things that can happen to a rig that just sits out in a driveway or in a storage unit that is just not good for the RV. So lower mileage doesn't necessarily mean that an RV is in better shape, but it is certainly going to make it more expensive. So with all that being said, that's kind of our headspace right now. That's the things that we've been looking at. We've responded to a lot of the comments in that last video saying we're still doing research on whether we want to go the rental route or go the private route. I'm going to tell you right now, we are definitely leaning towards the rental side of the house, but we're still doing a little bit more research and we're still trying to get a couple more ducks in a row before we pull the trigger and go with one of those. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you everybody who commented on that last video. I hope the discussion continues down in this video's comment section, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.